All right, so I just put in a public records request to University of Washington, Seattle for Richard Allen Miller's research at in the lab of Professor Gerald H Pollack. Um, and I was listening to Richard Allen Miller interviews last night, and my buddy told me he was listening to Richard Allen Miller's recent podcast interview on the Higher Side Chats podcast, and I as soon as he told me that, because I had checked out Richard Allen Miller's research before, and I immediately surmised that he was related to Andrija Puharich's research. And so as I listened more and more, I discovered that indeed he stated he was a direct student of Andrija Puharich at Stanford Research Institute. And Richard Allen Miller claims he got his PhD, and he goes by Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And he worked in Gerald Pollack's lab in the early 70s. And so I contacted Professor Pollack because I had studied Pollack's easy water research a bit before. And so Professor Pollack said, "Who are you, and why are you interested in this information?" And so I explained. I gave a real lengthy email response, and he said, "Wow, I'm impressed. You're the real deal, but I still don't understand why you're interested in Richard Allen Miller's research." And so then, I gave him more information. And he said, "I'm not trying to be difficult. I just don't know why you're interested in Richard Allen Miller's research." And so, I showed how I had very similar research ideas. I couldn't quite understand why he was giving me the runaround. I said, I won't share the information if you want me to keep it private. And I didn't get any response. So then I decided to look up Gerald Pollack's latest research, and he just did a study documenting that infrared light actually increases the easy water levels in the collagen, and the hydrophilic molecules, which is the collagen, and that he calls it the proton zone, and then the easy water. So the infrared light is separating the protons from the electrons in the water, and it's doing that through the virtual photons. And so it's increasing the numbers of protons in the proton zone. And so in the paper, they recommend, infrared light therapy should then increase easy water in the body. And the easy water then can create new matter through the virtual photons. and that thereby healing the body. And so I responded back to, when I read this research by Pollack, I used the Sci-Hub so I could read the paper because it was behind academic paywall. And I kind of wanted to show to Professor Pollack, that I can read his research even though it's behind academic paywall. So he's trying to give me the runaround about Richard Allen Miller. And I wasn't going to bother him about that anymore because I just made the public records request instead of dealing with him stonewalling me. And then I just showed to him, I can still read your research even though it's behind academic paywall. And even better, I said, do you know about Wim Hof's Tummo breathing method that he teaches? Because I said that, mitochondria emit infrared light, and that's well documented. So if you do the Tummo breathing method that Wim Hof teaches, the secret of the breathing method, as I've researched it, is that it's also called the quick fire method in Taoist Yoga alchemy. And so you breathe fast and deep, and you do 30 fast, deep breaths using the reverse breathing. So below your belly button, you breathe in, you suck in below your belly button, so your diaphragm is flexing down on the in-breath. And when you do that fast, you're emitting carbon dioxide at a faster rate than your body produces carbon dioxide. And by doing that, you're increasing the pH level of your blood. And it turns out that the diver's reflex in your brain is activated based on the pH level of your blood. So you're also doubling the level of adrenaline because the breathing physically stimulates the kidneys when you do that deep breathing. So that's why it's both fast and deep. And the once the diver's reflex is not activated, then after the 30 deep breaths, you then hold the breath after exhale. And when you hold it after exhale, it activates your vagus nerve, the right side vagus nerve that goes to the lower body. Actually, the vagus nerves, they split at the diaphragm, and the right side goes to the back, and the left side stays in the front. And so, but when the blood goes up, it's going up from the back, and then it goes up to the pineal gland or the pineal gland, and the pineal gland, the increased blood then, since it increases the oxygen levels in your brain, and since the blood then, it's called the Bohr's effect. So when you have a lower level of oxygen in your body, then the blood has to emit the oxygen, and so that the cells can still get the oxygen, and so therefore it drives the oxygen deeper into the cells, and this oxygen then powers the mitochondria directly because all your oxygen is being driven out of your blood, and that's called the Bohr's effect in physiology. So because the diver's reflex is not activated, therefore you can hold the breath longer, and by holding the breath longer, you're also activating your vagus nerve deep in the brain, and you have to activate your brain's vagus nerve in order to then activate the adrenaline, the lower body adrenaline that you just built up from the original 30 quick, deep breaths. So that combination of holding the breath after the 30 deep breaths as the exhale then activates the deep brain vagus nerve, which then activates the adrenaline. And then you're also increasing the infrared light emitted by the mitochondria. And Wim Hof even talks about this, how he then sees light, when he's holding his breath after the exhale. And so and then where it gets really fascinating is now Gerald Pollack has proven that when you increase the infrared light in the body from the mitochondria being activated, then you're increasing the separation of water into its fourth state called EZ water. And this is a relativistic quantum state of water, a macro quantum coherence. So it's the virtual photons are being increased, and the magnetic moment of the virtual photons is then the Wan Qi, the cosmic Wan Qi in the body and the brain. And so that's outside the actual microtubules in the tubulin of the brain neurons. But the collagen is also filled with the microtubules, and that's the hydrophilic proteins that is necessary for the easy water to be created, because you need that pressure. Essentially, the pressure is the equivalent of the near freezing temperature that expands the water as a negative entropy, as a macro quantum molecule. And so when you combine that, that's the true secret of the Wim Hof breathing method, and that's why he's able to generate so much heat, is because he's activating the virtual photons as the Wan Qi energy. And of course, when you combine that with meditation as visualization internally and turning the light around, 2/3 of your brain's power is used by your vision. So when your eyes are open, that's 25 watts as your brain power normally. So 2/3 of that's about 18 watts. And that's laser energy. So you have an 18-watt laser when you close your eyes and you turn it around. And so when you combine the visualization, as the traditional Tummo breathing does, it's a closed eyes meditation along with the breathing. Then you create this internal heat, and eventually the heart heat is activated, and the Wan Qi, the secret pinhole, is on the right side of the heart from the deep right side vagus nerve, accessing the beyond death and the cosmic Qi through the right side of the heart. And that's what Ramana Maharshi talks about. And the light keeps getting brighter and brighter, and then you can create Wan Shen of other people around you to heal them and transform their bodies and create new matter inside their bodies from the virtual photons. And that's the secret of alchemy, essentially. So thanks to Professor Gerald Pollack for keep asking me why do I want this information, and that's probably the best response he could give me. I think he's like in his 80s or something, I don't know, and he's still an active professor, so hats off to him and his student Richard Allen Miller. And I guess they were doing military research for the microwaves as mind control. This is what Richard Allen Miller claims. So it'll be very interesting to see what information I get back, if there's anything about that. I wasn't like super specific for what records I wanted, so I don't know if they're gonna dodge the records request or whatever. And that's all I'm gonna say. Thanks very much.